Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated. I have a very, very good episode for you today. I'm so excited about producing this particular episode. I am going to give you the reasoning behind it. But before I do so, and we dive into today's content, make sure that you, if you haven't done so already for me really quickly, like this video and subscribe to the channel as well, just to assure that you receive notifications about my latest episodes when they're uploaded. Click that notification bell as well. Man, this particular episode today, I'm going to entitle "Mainstream Media Has Destroyed Sports Talk Entertainment." Man, I'm so excited to get into this one. This video was actually inspired by my thought process around, if sports talk media or sports in general is dying, just the excitement of communicating around it, our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, what drives us as sports fans. I just think that the landscape is being destroyed by the mainstream media. And I want to dig into this particular content and give my opinions, my perspectives, also validated by an article from the Washington Post and a bit of video commentary from ESPN generated show or produced show NBA Today. But before we dive into this content, this episode today is made possible by our sponsors from Signature Barbershop. Let's hear a word from them. Yo, a fresh haircut is unmatched when it comes to making one feel like a brand new person. Patience coupled with precision, timing mixed with mastery are just a few ingredients that turn great barbers into legendary. Clean, comfortable, and elegant environment, Signature Barbershop puts your transformation in arm's reach. With locations in Scottsdale and Chandler, AZ. For a cut above the rest, book your appointment immediately. What more do you need to see? Oh yeah, and tell them Cosmic sent you. Blessings. So that was our sponsors from Signature Barbershop. Shout out to Signature Barbershop, located here in Arizona. If you are ever in Arizona and need of a really, really good haircut that'll transform you into a new person, Signature Barbershop should definitely be the place that you hit up. Getting into this content once again, mainstream media has destroyed sports talk entertainment. Diving into the content, I wanted to explore an article from the Washington Post. And I will link the description in the description, the full article, so that you can go through it on your own and at your leisure if you would like. I am going to read the entire article, which was a column written by Jerry Brewer. I am from the generation where sports talk was primarily dominated on the radio airwaves and in newspaper columns. So I'm from the newspaper generation where, and being from Washington, D.C., I would pick up specifically the Washington Post a lot to, read through the columns. I wouldn't just, look at the sports page, but I would actually read, thanks to my dad, a lot of articles I would engage in, just reading for the purposes of, one, understanding, two, to gather information, and in a lot of ways to find minded opinions, or that would push me beyond the boundaries of my own thought process and belief to add an alternate perspective that might help rather to shape how I moved and how I thought on a specific topic because of. So shout out to Jerry Brewer. This article that I'm going to get into is entitled "The Media's Role in Fracturing Sports." As societal grievances divide or grievance divides sports fans, will media members meet this moment or get trampled by it? This article was actually published on June 11th of this year, so just a few months back. Let's dive in. The night before Ali's funeral, a handful of sports writers gathered at a bar in downtown Louisville. We drank bourbon, cocktails, and contemplated our enormous assignment the next day. As we talked, the room filled with celebrities, boxing legends, and civil rights leaders. No pressure, y'all, I said to our group. Just don't screw up Ali's story. We laughed and tried to transport ourselves back to the press hat and typewriter days of the 1960s when Ali began challenging the nation and influencing our profession. In trying to tell his Homeric story and grappling with consequential issues such as war, religion, and civil rights, sports reporters made a full transition from covering games to practicing journalism. They couldn't screw up Ali's story either. Even when it seemed they did, Ali kept coming back, providing opportunities for revision. He kept reclaiming the heavyweight title, kept verbally sparring with media members, and kept revealing his humanitarian soul until they understood him. It resulted in a trove of great stories about the greatest and about the American society he was helping to reshape, some of the best sports journalism ever produced. I often think about that June night in 2016. It felt like we had a responsibility to honor our craft with one final Ali account. 8 years later, I wonder how many in the sports media still feel that broader sense of duty at a time when societal grievance and division spill into the ring. I wonder whether we will adjust to meet this moment or continue to get trampled by it. In exploring the friction that plagues sports, it will be dishonest to omit media complicity. Some of my people, the ink stained, mic'd up, silver tongued, hot take spewing, bad faith acting, mayhem kindling supposed truth seekers, have propagated the nasty discourse. Long before even every bouncing ball became politicized, a rage culture had developed within sports, spurred by social media, debate show television, and the financial collapse of the mainstream media. It led to an obsession with engagement, a decrease in curiosity, and an abundance of empty communication delivered in the noisiest manner possible. Acting on the impulse to be louder, some messengers hankered to build their personal brands. It made them less interested in accuracy, logic, and fair mindedness than in being noticed. Sometimes it required them to become merchants of dissension because it's more beneficial to rile the crowd. The cacophony attracts political manipulation. Is there a better place to sow division? In a media habitat that elevates cheap debate and stymies contextualization, the ground becomes lush for culture wars to invade, spreading petty but harmful disagreement and mirroring a country that screams better than it listens. It makes me long for better, or at least more responsible, time. But back then, we were searching for something similar, said Robert Lisp, an award winning journalist and author. In 1964, Lips was 26 years old when the New York Times assigned him to cover the Sonny Liston Cassius Clay heavyweight title bout. 60 years have not diminished Lips' memory of the baby-faced 22-year-old Clay, who would soon change his name to Muhammad Ali, shouting to reporters, "Eat your words." 43 of 46 sports writers had predicted Liston would win. That was the first time they were wrong about Ali. The most prominent sports writers of the 1960s, the likes of Jimmy Cannon, Red Smith, and Jim Murray, those guys were flagrantly anti-Ali, Lips said in a phone interview. Their language was bitter. They didn't like what he represented at first. They just wanted to cover sports their way, and a lot of them were highly conservative. Then there were younger sports writers who were more affected by the turbulence of those times and had some sense of themselves as journalists. There was a real dichotomy of sports journalism. It's amazing to go back and think about how much changed, and all of it for the better, if you ask me. We are desperate to evolve again, this time away from debate and toward understanding. If we can't, the consequences seem dire. In 2003, I was a rookie columnist who needed direction. An editor told me to write an opening paragraph with more edge. If I were you, I'd start with, just shut up and play, he said. If you were me, you know better, I replied. I didn't know much about writing opinions then. I was 3 years out of college, but I knew I didn't want to be angry and incurious. I didn't want to scream. In sports, it doesn't take much to provoke strong emotions, but there is no integrity in doing so simply for attention. Let me go back and read those last two sentences again for emphasis. In sports, it doesn't take much to provoke strong emotions, but there is no integrity in doing so simply for attention. The pursuit of truth now competes with the desire for attention. That sentence again. The pursuit of truth now competes with the desire for attention. It's no contest, sadly. Instead of reporting, instead of wondering and scrutinizing, instead of building trust and gaining insight and providing context, we exhaust too many diminishing resources to facilitate screaming. There's seldom enough fresh information to react to, so we regurgitate arguments, only louder, all in the name of provocation. Powerful statement. It's annoying when someone goes low to split hairs about the greatness of LeBron James or Patrick Mahomes. It's destructive when the same cavalier approach collides with weighty topics. At worst, it creates a grievance industry for fans who love sports but hate the people who play them. That's the perspective of Dave Zirin, a journalist and author who lives at the intersection of sports and politics. With the traditional journalism business model reduced to shards, echo chambers have blossomed in sports, reflecting the rest of the media landscape. The mainstream, or what's left of it, has been cast as too liberal, out of touch with the predominantly white male sports fan base. An expansive and sometimes noxious right wing sports media has filled much of the vacuum. Tired of jockeying for position, women are creating their own media companies. Fed up with being marginalized, the LGBTQ community has created its own news platforms, determined to strengthen their brands. Leagues, teams, and even individual superstars have turned their house organs into complete orchestras, haven't we? We're more intentional than ever about sitting in different sections of the stadium, viewing the action from vastly different angles, and pressuring rabid followers to experience sports our way. Superimpose the issue causing national fissures, and conversations already hemorrhaging nuance turn hostile. Yesterday's venom is today's champagne, said Zirin, the sports editor of liberal magazine The Nation, who also anchors a weekly Edge of Sports column. The fight has become hegemonic. It has become ideological. It is a fight for who's going to control how sports are consumed. The resurrection needed only a 20-second video from Press Row. Out of nowhere, minutes before another banner NCAA women's basketball tournament game in April, the dead issue rose. It was a recording of the Iowa team standing and holding hands during the national anthem. In his social media post, the reporter noted the Hawkeyes' opponent, LSU, was in the locker room. 9 million views later, it was 2017 again. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry decided to Trumpify the attention, threatening to compel the Board of Regents to make scholarships dependent on athletes being present for the Star-Spangled Banner. His social media post received 2.5 million views and 2,000 polarizing replies. Later, Landry brought his performance to Fox News. Exploitation has its perks. Landry took advantage of a common, benign part of LSU's routine. Unlike pro leagues, the NCAA doesn't have a policy requiring teams to be present during the anthem. The Tigers always leave for their locker room at the 12-minute mark. There was no defiance in their actions, only have it. The reporter who posted the video, Dan, I believe it's Yakshesk, of conservative website Outkick, asked about LSU's absence after the elite game. Coach Kim Mulkey gave the explanation and said in conclusion, I'm sorry, listen, that's nothing intentionally done. The story should have ended there, but the selective outrage was too intense. On a night when women's college basketball shattered another viewership record, it made for a convenient wedge issue. There was no need for context and no room for grace, only maddening nonsense intended to elicit more nonsense. As an industry, we're stuck in this mud, wrestling for relevance. We manipulate and get manipulated. The mainstream jobs shrink, but the appetite for content increases. The struggle for financial viability tempts us to either mollify the masses or foment controversy about protests, about race, about gender. Too often, the full story is no match for an incomplete irritant. The misleading LSU anthem saga proved to be a gross form of dehumanization. A team of mostly black women was made to seem mutinous, while a mostly white team was presented as a paragon of patriotism. From press row to the governor's mansion, the moment called for a conscientious approach. But once again, the trope of the ungrateful, unpatriotic black dissident athlete was too pugnacious to resist. Lip served as the ESPN ombudsman when defensive end Michael Sam became the first openly gay NFL draft pick in 2014. Before the historic selection, Lips was receiving messages about the liberal bias of sports coverage. After the draft broadcast, he was flooded with reactions to ESPN airing a kiss between Sam and his partner. There was a tremendous amount of email from people who really felt sports was their last sanctuary, Lips said. The way they wrote it gave me the feeling that men were leading their wives and children to a giant rec room, and all of them were confronted with Michael Sam giving his partner the longest kiss since The Princess Bride, and they were incredibly offended. And I wasn't sure they were wrong to feel that way. They'd been sold a bill of goods by ESPN that this wasn't a place they would have to be afraid of real life interfering with their entertainment. In his ESPN.com critique, Lips gave the company mostly positive reviews, but the email interactions crystallized something he had assumed for a long time. The average sports fan is at best at the center politically. If not, they're certainly to the right of the average sports journalist, Lips said. They still believe in the old traditional values of sports that, when you investigate them, never really existed. It's the steadfast belief in a comfortable, apolitical environment that actually fuels the grievance politics in sports. As resentment builds over the inability to escape, the liberal agenda is cast as a threat to enjoyment, and a new engagement heavy area of coverage bubbles to the surface. It is good business, but are we all acting in good faith? Journalism is not some kind of grift. Yet there are plenty who profit in bad faith, making money, acquiring fame, or basking in intentional infamy. They inspire copycats who sink even lower to get noticed. This urge to pander to a particular audience transcends political affiliation. Liberal-leaning media members bark to their bases too. 4 years ago, Orlando Magic forward Jonathan Isaac cited his Christian faith when discussing his decision to stand during the national anthem and not wear the Black Lives Matter t-shirt that the rest of the NBA donned during warm-ups. The criticism of some reporters veered toward ridicule. The eagerness to vilify the other side, usually on social media, complicates the less reactionary work that defines our mission. In general, media democratization, made easier because of technology, has been beneficial. But it also spreads radical fringe ideas that once died quickly because no infrastructure existed to distribute them with ease. Now, Trouble can arrive with the push of a button. Sport is a language to me. It is an essential form of communication. The one thing that could penetrate my childhood shyness and allow me to forge a genuine father son relationship with my stepfather. We bonded first over baseball. He tolerated my Chicago Cubs fandom. He introduced me to college basketball and the Louisville Cardinals. We developed trust over countless hours talking sports as the games on television drifted into background noise. When I came home from school November 7th, 1991, my dad called me into my parents' bedroom. I was 13. We watched Magic Johnson, my favorite athlete, announce his retirement from basketball because of the HIV virus that I have attained. Afterward, Pop stammered through a talk about sex for the first time. 3 years later, I fell in love with journalism, the perfect outlet for a high school sophomore who leaned on curiosity to socialize. I knew my purpose before I had a driver's license. The dream hasn't always been sweet. Business keeps forcing change. I ponder our survival almost as much as our mission. The New York Times shuttered its sports department last year, relying instead on The Athletic. Sports Illustrated crawls towards its demise. In 1986, the Sporting News celebrated its 100th anniversary during a luncheon with President Ronald Reagan. In 2012, its final issue went to print. On the radio, most of sports talk is formulaic and lacks variety. On television, major networks such as ESPN may soon lose their independence as they pursue co-ownership with the leagues whose games they broadcast. Conflict of interest, it sounds like, right? In some ways, I think the evil empire has kind of won, Lip said. I think sports writing has gotten a lot better, but I think there's no real call for it anymore. Fans don't really want real journalism. They don't want to read the truth about their entertainers. They really don't want to read the truth about how predatory everything around sports can be. They used to have to listen, but there are institutions happy to give them exactly what they want. A friend wondered recently why I still do this job. He accused sports and sports media of being a cesspool of ignorance. He wanted to know what it's like for me to be lumped in with colleagues who operate in a manner antithetical to my purpose. I've wrestled with the question every day for several weeks. The search for an answer has left me ashamed, frustrated, and confused. It has made me angry. At the moment, I am wistful. Through reporting, I found empathy. If I showed sincere interest and asked the right questions, I could establish a powerful connection, often built on mutual vulnerability. Then my job was to do what I enjoyed most, retreat to solitude and write, making sense of the world one delicate, personal story at a time. When I realized sports writing was an actual career, it felt like I would be getting paid to eat cake. At 16, I could aspire to live a fantasy, but growing up means coming down. Perhaps I'm 30 years wiser now. For certain, I am 30 years more troubled. This is the only job I have ever had, and for a long time it didn't seem like work. It does now. But struggle verifies purpose. Powerful statement. There's still little that moves me more than documenting the triumphs and failures of the sports world on and off the field. The hook isn't merely the constant stream of results, it is the striving. It is the hope that better is still possible. Through all the resentment, conflict, and change, the games still compel us to tell stories about this hope. At times, we ignore it or mock it or misrepresent it. But before cynicism can get comfortable, something unimaginable inevitably happens, recycling the hope. Then we do as Ali demanded. We eat our words. I trust we can still be humbled. So again, that article published by the Washington Post, a column written by Jerry Brewer, entitled "The Media's Role in Fracturing Sports," a brilliant article that I feel like is incredibly nuanced, and there's so much that can be pulled from that article in and of itself, as I spoke about. There are just so many examples in the mainstream media where you get this screaming debate, such as your First Takes, your Undisputed for Years with Skip. Shannon, undisputed, or rather, first take, I feel like, was has been doing this thing with the debate and dominating debate, sports debate TV, from a mainstream sense for years. None more powerful a pairing, in my opinion, than Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith. But the demise of Max Kellerman, or the division, separation of Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, in my opinion, kind of brought down the quality of content on that particular show. And maybe some will, or most will disagree, but I just think that they were a really good pairing, even if offering perspectives that irritated Stephen A., being Max Kellerman. We tuned in because we knew that Max would offer a differing perspective from that of screaming Stephen, and it would make for entertaining debate on various topics, or often regurgitated topics. So I feel like their breakup, kind of underscores this idea for me that sports media is being destroyed from an entertainment perspective. As far as Undisputed is concerned, the pairing of Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, upon their breakup as well, I just feel like, the sports media landscape on television needs to be revamped. It is dead, in my opinion, and it's frustrating to watch the constant regurgitation, the constant reaching, the constant ignoring of present greatness in favor of regurgitating a topic, or focusing solely on one or a handful of standouts in the NBA over sharing, or publicizing widely, or highlighting the greatness of others, other teams, other young players who are on the rise in this league. So it just makes it less entertaining to tune in, and I really can't stomach it as a fan myself. So I've kind of boycotted watching these on the major networks. But because I've been such a fan for years and viewing clips on YouTube, they still will pop up on my story. And now that I'm producing this channel, I get a lot of sports, recommendations, or sports show recommendations, sports dialogue in general. And yesterday, or a few days ago, one such recommendation came in this form, which was an ESPN segment, or a portion of a segment run on NBA Today, which posed the question: LeBron's Lakers, MJ's Wizards. Now, let me tell you why this annoyed me to no end, to begin with. And it is much of what was spoken about in that article by Jerry Brewer, with this constant regurgitation. And also, for me, the comparisons, right? So if you follow this channel or have watched previous videos, I most recently produced a video where I spoke about, the GOAT debate being a childish topic of discussion. I renounced this idea publicly on this channel, and also in my friendship circles where we debate sports, excuse me, or have conversations about it. And I'm no longer interested in hearing it, certainly not participating in it. But in this kind of content being produced in mainstream media, and now the independent media space, by a lot of folks who've realized that doing so is going to get you views and clicks and likes and subscribers, and beating this dead horse of comparison, of GOAT debating, etc., it is really debilitating for a sports fan who would more enjoy hearing about, in this off season specifically, about what players are doing to train, to get ready, what those mindsets look like, to hear from them directly. I mean, they're available. It's not like they're doing anything but working out. So they can, if we want to add some creativity to this realm of sports talk and sports debate, why aren't they talking to the players? Instead, they're regurgitating topics and constantly doing this comparison thing, which is really weird. I'm sick of this LeBron James, Michael Jordan comparisons. They're not comparable. They just really aren't. And so you cannot talk me out of, no matter how many of these silly clips you guys produce, or silly shows topically you produce, you cannot talk me out of what I saw. I saw Michael play. I saw LeBron. I've been alive to witness both careers and also the careers of other players. I don't need you to keep trying to tell me or keep trying to compare something that I saw and trying to talk me out of it. It's annoying. It really is. It's incredibly annoying. But in this particular clip, I wanted to share a bit of a clip. It's just about 45 seconds long of as they were producing through this segment, they were asking the question or posed the question at the bottom of the screen: what needs to happen for LeBron James to win his fifth NBA title and or win his fifth NBA title this season? And of course, Richard Jefferson is going in, and he's just kind of giving his talk and his opinion, and he just sharing some insights. And he makes a statement that rubs Kendrick Perkins the wrong way, and then Kendrick Perkins poses a question. But I just kind of want you to hear what was said, and then I'll come back and I'll offer some commentary from there. Let's take a listen.
All-star caliber. White. Then you talk about White, all-star caliber, all-star caliber. Right. Two of those guys were on the Olympic team. So what does it need to happen? Something miraculous that we don't know about. Jesus Christ could come down and play shooting guard for them.
Gods of Spalding and Wilson coming down.
I don't know what could happen, but I wish him the best. We'll be watching the whole story.
No, RJ, you're so wrong, bro. Like, they're not that far off. They're not that far off. Like, they don't need to be calling on Jesus Christ, right? Like, think about this for a second. Answer this question. How many teams in the Western Conference, if the Lakers were to match up with them in a 7-game series, would you pick the other side?
How many teams would you pick?
Oh, I'll gladly answer that question, Malika. I'll gladly answer that question, Kendrick. 9 teams. I pick 9 teams over the Lakers. Before I tell you who those 9 teams are, I am sick of talking about the Lakers. They are trash. They're trash. They're not that good. As presently constructed, they're just not a good team. Why do we have to keep hearing about the Lakers as though they're not 30 plus other teams in the league? Can we talk about the NBA at large and not just this constant fairy tale hope pie in the sky for LeBron and these Lakers? They're trash. They are trash, bro. I don't care if you don't like it. They are garbage. They are. That's presently constructed. We got Bronny on the roster. We got a young Dalton Connect. It's just not a very well-structured team. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? So let me answer the question. Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Dallas, Denver, New Orleans, who took them 7 games before Zion went out with a hamstring injury with 2 minutes to go after a heroic 40-point performance. The Suns would beat them in a 7-game series as presently constructed. So would Golden State. So would a young Memphis team with Ja Morant returning. That puts the Lakers, by my estimation, in the same place where we think they are. 10th in the West. 10th. Fighting for a play-in spot. Hoping to get out of the play-in to just make it to the playoffs. Not very good. And so this is the thing that just burns my biscuits about sports media in general. They are beating a dead horse, man. Constantly beating this drum of LeBron James and the Lakers. I don't even think they need to do that for viewership. The NBA, with these star athletes spread out amongst these teams, needs no help in getting people to tune in wherever basketball games are viewed to have fans take a look. We don't need sports media continuing to do this weird cycle of regurgitation in order to get us to tune in to watch the game on ESPN. Last year, throughout most of the season, as a fan personally, I would watch the games on mute because I just couldn't stomach the majority of the commentary throughout. It's annoying. It's just really become incredibly annoying. I grew up in an era where, again, I talked about the newspapers and how we tune into to most things. We get our highlights from games on the local sports channels. We tune into ESPN to watch Sports Center at 11. And then, you know, as addicted as a fan as I was, I tune in to watch more and more and more. But the format of Sports Center back then, certainly the format of the local television news sports segment, was only like 5 minutes, if that, as they just ran through some highlights really quickly. Sportscasters, man, they didn't have much time to just give you some highlights. So they weren't sitting there debating or making up fairy tale narratives to try to spark interest in us tuning in tomorrow. We tuned in for the sports highlights. We had shows like Inside Stuff. Shout out to Ahmad Rashad, who would give us a different perspective in terms of what the players were doing in the offseason, what they do behind the scenes when they're not on the basketball court. That was engaging and entertaining. This BS that they have subjected us to as fans today is nauseating. It is frustrating. It is ridiculous. I personally long for the day when we can just have dialogue about actual sports, the actual leagues, the actual season, what is happening in plain sight in real time, and not have to try to spin some narrative around what we see as though we do not see exactly what we see. That is the reason that I started this channel. That is the reason I engage in sports conversation with my friends and those who love sports. Anything else should be beneath us. It is certainly beneath me. So that has been the basis of today's episode. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell to be notified as to when my newest episodes are uploaded. And I look forward to hanging out with you guys again sometime soon. Until the next video, blessings.